Someone in one of my shorts asked me how I paint eyes, so I thought I would make a little tutorial. So let's hop into it. I'm sorry if anything I say makes no sense. I'll do my very best to explain everything. While I'm sketching out the eyes here in the background, I thought I'd just put on the screen any brushes that I use from Clip Studio Paint. I like to use the Manji brush for sketching and the T-Bud brush for painting and coloring. I also like to use the color pen sometimes for coloring. I haven't been using it as much, but you can try both of them. They both are quite painterly, so you might like one more than the other, so try them both out. I believe they're both free, so go ahead and try them. Here I'm just laying out the skin color. I decided to make the background a bit more gray, so it's not that hard to differentiate it. I like to keep the sclera, the white part of the eye, very similar to the skin color, almost like you can't even tell that it's a different color. It's a very slight difference. And here I'm just laying out some of the base colors. So for the pupil, I'll usually make a clipping layer and set it to multiply, and I'll kind of shade in the top half. I'm very rough with it on the early phases because we're going to paint more over it, if that makes sense. You'll kind of see what I mean. I do the same with the add glow layer. I like to have a little bubble at the bottom. And then on top of the sketch layer, I like to draw these little pupils, the two little pupil dots in the middle. I'll go back to the sketch layer, lock it, and fill it in with this kind of reddish, dark red color. I like having the bottom line be a little light kind of pinkish color for the bottom line. Now this is where the fun coloring kind of begins. I don't know how to explain it, but if you're using the pens I told you to use, they're kind of very painterly. You kind of color pick colors in between and it blends very well. I don't know how to explain it. It's pretty cool. For the inner corner of the eye, I'll pick the bottom line color, which was like that pinkish color I mentioned earlier, and I'll just like color in the edges. I don't know, it makes the eyes pop a little bit. I just like how it looks. I won't always do it, but I like to. I like to blend out any hard edges using the skin tone and the airbrush tool and just blend it out. Here I'll just adjust some stuff. I changed the pupils a little bit and I added the highlight. And pretty much don't be afraid to use the add glow tool and the multiply tool. Here I use the add glow for the top lash, adjust the opacity, and here I'm just cleaning up the initial sketch I had done before so I can move on to painting the eyes. When I'm painting the eye, here I'm using a slightly darker blue color, and then I'm using a mix of the paintbrush and the airbrush tool to kind of soften out the edges. Don't overuse the airbrush tool, otherwise you're going to end up getting a very messy, muddy result. So just be very sparing with it. I recommend you hop between the airbrush tool and the hard paintbrush and kind of mess around with both of them. Now the same pupil I drew earlier, I'm going to use the light into dark color from the iris in between, and then use the blur tool at the bottom. You can add this kind of pink color over top of the eye. It'll give it more depth, almost like a shadow, or it could be eyeshadow if you like. And then for the bottom line, I'll use my paintbrush and I'll kind of blur it using the brush. I don't use the airbrush tool until the very end. I kind of mess around and get the bottom line to look how I want it, blend it out, use the airbrush to kind of soften it out, but for the most part I'm just using the paintbrush tool. Finally, if you want to, you can add eyelashes. I just like to draw little flicks and then use the pinkish color to kind of blend it into the top line, so it's kind of like looks like it's attached, if that makes sense. It's just how I like to do it. That's it for this tutorial. Here I'm just adding the nose and blush and all these little extra stuff. I'm gonna name all the layers and I'll try to maybe color code them, and I'll leave the Clip Studio Paint file down below if you want to look at it. I hope this kind of helps, and yeah, thanks for watching.